pepperoni, Hawaiian, margarita, Chicago, New York. Wait, is this just a bunch of types of pizza? What are we talking about? Oh, let's talk about flumphs. Flumphs are jellyfish air squids. Like bloopers, I guess. I don't know. People have asked me a lot about how to play a character where you don't have to worry about the equipment or armor that they have. And that's kind of where this video came from. You could always just tell people to play a monk or play a grapple barbarian, or play as a bear or an umber hulk. And those are all valid suggestions if you want to have gear not be the main focus of your character. The trick is that you should be playing a flump. Flumph? 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 Nailed it. However you want to say it. Flumphs are 2 feet wide, radial, no diameter. Flumphs have a 2-foot diameter and are only about 3 inches thick. They come in the range of small to tiny creature, but you're basically an extra large deep dish pizza. Mind you, most pizzas aren't covered in tentacles or acidic slime, at least not good pizzas. I'm looking at you, Pizza Hut, do better. But not only do you look like a pizza, but you sustain yourself off of small rodents and the psychic energy of larger, more terrifying creatures like apolis and mind flayers. Wait, is that track? Someone call Pizza Hut. Ask about their Mind Flayer special. Besides being the smaller, less evil version of other underdark, floaty horror jellyfish, is that you're basically a happy-go-lucky flying spaghetti monster that loves being around people because they eat your brain, do good juices. Moreover, they feed on the positive energies your brains give off, whereas pizza gives you the good energies. Sauce. It's kind of the opposite of pizza. This video might be getting away from me. Let's talk about flumphs as the tiny juggernauts of destruction that they are. At level 1, a flumph has an AC of 20. I'm not even joking. So any character you start as a flumph, regardless of race or class, should have a base armor class of 20. Basically, the top side of a flumph is damn near indestructible. In first edition, their AC was 0, which is effectively a natural AC of 20. And that by far is not the weirdest thing about them. Their eye stalks are retractable, and their undersides, while more soft and squishy than the top, do have an AC of 10 plus your dexterity, are covered in hardened spikes and acidic tendrils. So not too many things want to f with them. Mind you, they are small and taste awful. The occasional goblin or ogre might take a pass at these jet-powered Roombas, but they'd probably have a better time just ordering out. Just barely. Anyways, back to the flumph. The flumph. You may have noticed that I gave them 2 different ACs, 2 different armor classes. Very clever. Let's talk about that. This really is on the DM to make sure that they utilize this in-game, but the flumph are basically tiny floating drink trays. And by that, I mean they are easily flipped over. Seriously, any condition that would knock them prone, i.e. a strong wind, falling, failing a dex save, getting bull rushed, bumping into your waiter on your way from the pizza oven to the table, you become completely incapacitated while upside down until you roll a DC 10 dexterity save at the end of your turn. That's pretty awesome. No other race I've covered has that kind of detriment. And because you are incapacitated until the end of your turn, even if you stack a ton of dexterity so that you always make the save, you're still losing your turn every time you get temporarily knocked prone. That's a rough downside, but you do get the super awesome armor, so I mean, not even turtles have it that bad. Think about that one for a little bit. The big shells. Just saying. So you may think, well, they can float. Why don't they just float up and over? No, they can't. For some reason, the flumph. Is that annoying? Should I say it a different way? The flumph. The flumphs. P and an H in there. It's weird. For some reason, the flumphs were designed to suck in air from the top and then scoot around like some squid shooting out air from their dozens of mouths. I don't know if you could hear the air quotes I was doing there. Seriously, they're weird. They're air-powered shields. With that in mind, no armor. They have weird alien bodies, and they're basically jellyfish. And by no means does that mean you should be able to use any kind of armor or shield. That being said, while you do lose your proficiency for armors, I don't see why the unarmored defense would be taken away from monks and barbarians. Or having access to like the shield spell, I think would also be fine. I mean, like, hell yeah, go for it. You don't need armor. Let's move on. Talking about stats, flumphs are psychic mentally oriented creatures. So basically you get +2 to your int and wisdom. There's something lost in the translation from designing these small or tiny creatures into 5th edition. So that would also give them a pretty huge negative to strength and a dex bonus as well. So let's do it this way. Strength -4. Because you are a floating calzone. +2 dexterity, because you're a tiny floating calzone. +2 to int and wisdom, because you're literally mostly brain on the inside. And your charisma stays neutral because, well, you reproduce the same way that an onion does. So have fun with that. The movement you gain by pooting around basically gives you 30 feet of fly speed, and if by chance you ever do have to deal with walking, once again with the hard air quotes, you're basically only going to get the minimum movement, which is about 5 feet of walking speed. If you count slowly sliding cheese side down on a wall, walking. Actually saying cheese side down doesn't help either. Cheese side wall adjacent, leaving a streaky trail of pepperoni. Moving on. Well, if you don't get to wear cool armor, then you must be able to spend all of your hard-earned gold and treasure on sweet, sweet weapons and armaments, right? Wrong. The Flumph? I'm gonna stop doing that. The Flumph is a well-balanced killing machine. Mind you, they are classically lawful good, but forget that, because you're in control now. And if you want to break away from the colony of monastic cleric Flumphs and follow the way of the fist or noodly appendage, then you go right ahead and do that. You get tendrils. That's right, which is weird because tendrils are usually for plants. Does that mean they're closer to a mushroom or a jellyfish? Now I'm very confused. There's a lot of weird rules about this, partially because it gets to use your dexterity or your strength, which makes it a finesse weapon, not a natural weapon. But regardless of what it's called, you're going to be getting a d4 plus your strength or dexterity as piercing damage, as well as a d4 of acid damage, which is pretty awesome for a smaller tiny creature. I would argue that if you decide to go tiny, I would make it a d2 damage and the d4 acid damage, because acid is acid. At the end of your turn, any creature covered in your acid has to make a constitution saving throw equal to 10 plus your constitution modifier. Any creature that fails this, take another d4 of acid damage. And this effect continues until they either A, save from it, or B, I would say things like lesser restoration or possibly like completely dousing yourself with water as an action might get rid of the acid, but that's up to your DM. There's no upper bounds to this. You could just dissolve somebody with that. That's an additional d4 acid damage, possibly forever. Basically any martial class who can just wreck with your slappy goo hands, and because you can use your dex to this, I would also absolutely allow a rogue to use their sneak attack with this acid whip. And that's just if you get to goo them with your noodly appendages. There are some writings about Flumphs using their spikes on their underside to kill small rodents and insects, but that's just by falling on them. I'd probably count that as a body slam, which usually does a d6 or a d8 depending on your size. You'd also get your strength bonus to it, but probably would expose the soft underbelly of the Flumph. And I wouldn't suggest using that in combat. But hey, you do you. And you can always forgo your massive AC bonus to get the drop on someone. Get it? Drop on. Finally, the end-all be-all for the Flumph moves is the stench spray. Once per day, you can shoot a 15-foot cone of toxic goo spray? Mist? I don't know. You pick one of your orifices, one of your pie holes, and attempt to coat any poor creature that gets in your way with your acidic juices? Gross. You can use the same DC 10 Constitution Reflex save. Ooh, that was a weird mouthful. Or become coated in the horrible stench for 1d4 hours. And that's right, hours. They are poisoned as long as it lasts, and poison any creature within 5 feet of them from the horrible smell. The only way to remove it is with a short rest in which you take a bath in water, vinegar, or alcohol. Seriously, if that isn't the most barbarian move, I don't know what is. If a flying casserole barfed on me, I would definitely stop whatever I was doing and take a shower. The drawbacks to this, I would argue, is that regardless of your class, you probably are not going to be able to wield a weapon. Maybe you can like duct tape a pizza cutter to one of your linguinis and attempt to do bonus damage die, but without magical intervention, I don't see that being very effective. The last thing we need to talk about with Flumphs is their ability to communicate. For having a billion mouths, they definitely don't come pre-programmed with any languages. Well, at least any good ones. They do know Undercommon and can communicate telepathically with other telepathic creatures within 60 feet, but if they were to, say, walk up to 4 turtles and a rat folk, it's gonna sound a lot like screaming into a vacuum cleaner. Or maybe like the vacuum cleaner is screaming at you? Have you ever yelled into an oscillating fan? Something like that. Oh man, the 80s were wild times. But no, really, the talking should be very strange. Like, they don't have tongues. The upside is they uniquely have a telepathic shroud that can protect them from having their minds read. Kind of odd that they get this, but are highly susceptible to psychic damage. Maybe it's like if your whole body's an ear. You wouldn't really be good at making noises, but road construction at 8 a.m. would always ruin your day. That doesn't track. I think I've lost the plot here. That's a Flumph. If you never ever want to worry about weapons or armor again, turn yourself into a Pizza the Hut, get yourself an amulet of natural attacks, and start flame punching people with your stinky What, I can't say stinky goo. Oh, stink wasn't the bad word. Okay, well, thanks for watching, everybody. Remember to check out the Twitch channel for more live stream drawings. Make sure that you clickety-clack that dinkety bell down at the bottom to make sure you get the notifications from the next viewer suggestions are. If you have any cool Flumph stories or artwork, we'd love to see them in the Discord or in the comments below. As always, keep your dice on the table, and hand toss is not a barbarian path, but it could be. Way of the breadstick. Cleric of the risen dough. Did I mention that they can be clerics with these guys? It's not even weird. Turns out pizza monsters are very religious. I guess Bloaty the Pizza Hog could probably be a warlock patron. Would not be the first pizza paladin I've ever DM'd for, though. That's not unique. A champion of pepperoni.